Richard Beal, who is a self-described ambassador of recovery in San Francisco. And Richard has an incredible story. He's an incredible force for recovery, both in San Francisco and beyond throughout the country. He travels throughout the country giving motivational speaking engagements at national AA and NA meetings. AA, for those of you who don't know, is Alcoholics Anonymous. He's very active in his own recovery still, 27 years on. And he's going to talk to us today about his journey, what recovery means to him, and what we're seeing out in our community today, and some ideas on how to make things better for people out there that are still in the struggle. So Richard, welcome, and thank you very much for being here.
Hey, thank you, Tom, for the invitation. It's a pleasure, man. Anytime to talk about recovery and reach out to the community, let them know that we do recover.
Yes, we do.
Mhm.
So Richard, you've been in recovery for, you just had your sober anniversary, 27 years. Is that right?
Yes, 27 years. July 18th, Monday, I made 27 years clean. No slips, no dips, no weekend trips.
Congratulations. That's amazing, man. I
Mhm.
just hit 4 years. I still feel like a baby in recovery. I'm talking to all these people that have been 30 years, 25 years, 27 years. And every time I talk to someone like you, it's just a real tribute and affirmation to me of how recovery can not only save lives, but change lives.
Absolutely. Recovery changed my life, and thank God for the predecessors, the people that were here before me. I don't believe some people, they said that some people believe that some people have to die so that others can live. I don't believe in that. I believe that some people had to live so that I wouldn't die. If they wouldn't have been here, some people like Craig Johnson, Cedric Agbar, other people that, some of my peers, Jesse Prim, even the people that were really working with addicts like Dr. Joe Marshall and the Mega Boys Club and, all the people in recovery that, Poston Mason back in the day, a guy named Bob Berg, he was the treasurer of that meeting for 20 years straight, reached out, a white guy from Hunters Point, old merchant seaman, he ended up being the world service liaison for like 20 years, and he drove the MAP van. I was working at Ozanam. I ended up working at the Ozanam Detox in San Francisco on Howard Street. And he used to drive the MAP van, and all of that. So I just, those back in the day, that's when recovery was real. And recovery was like, I always thought as San Francisco being the gold standard for recovery because of all the programs. It was programs everywhere. If you wanted help, help was available.
And it's not so much that way anymore, is it, with recovery?
Well, a lot of things changed in like 2016, I believe it was, when they put into the RFP that you had to have harm reduction included in your proposal. Otherwise, you was not eligible for funding. And so a lot of programs were not eligible for funding when that came out.
And so those programs ended up folding, right? They shut down in
Yeah,
San
they didn't have
Francisco.
any funding. They couldn't have any funding. So yes, they ended up closing.
And I think that's the irony, and we'll talk more about this later too. But it's ironic because that one of the things that we are severely lacking right now in San Francisco are places for people to go that are struggling with addiction. I know 4 years ago when I was out on the street, if I wanted to go to treatment, I had no idea even where to begin that process in which to do that. And it wasn't until that I got locked up where I actually found some resources on how to go into drug treatment. And that shouldn't be the primary place that you find those resources. Jail, that shouldn't be the primary place. There should be adequate outreach on the street and facilities that you can easily access to start that process.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that. It used to be like that back in the day. I started using drugs at a real early age, I was raised in Richmond, and my father and mother both were, they were using drugs, drug addicts. As far as my father, his drug of choice was marijuana, and my mother, she drank. My father, he was familiar with the streets, and he sold a lot of marijuana, and so I started, smoking his doobies out the ashtray at 9 years old. You know, at 12 years old, I was selling 50-cent joints, $5 matchboxes, and three-finger lids. 12 years old, man. You know what I mean? So I was raised, I never had a job or anything till I got clean. All I ever did was hustle.
Wow.
All I ever did was sell weed and stuff like that, and end up being my best customer. I always say I went from being a baller to a crawler.